Everything Mehdi just listed off, there's no way you could think this is going well for us. All of that, again, Iran now has control of the Strait of Hormuz. They did not have that before. They're charging ships by the day to pass through there, so they're making money. They did not have that before. Like, they're winning in this now, and not only all of that. Hello, we are back with another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at one of my favorites. His name is Mehdi Hasan. If you don't know him, check him out. As you see in the title of the video, Mehdi Hasan BURIES, right-wing grifter with every single talking point. Again, Mehdi is one of my favorites, one of my favorite voices in the progressive movement right now. His logic is top tier. His debate skills, I mean, I would really hate to be sitting across the table from that man in disagreement. He's truly surgical with it. His ability to recall information, his ability to hold people to their logic and really walk them into traps, and not in a pretentious way, not in a, well, actually, Mehdi is really good about, and this is contrary to, if you watch one of my previous videos, the so statements you'll often hear from the far right, where they'll just hear, they'll take what you actually said, hear what they want, present the so statement to, to pivot the conversation. Mehdi is great about taking what you said, making sure he's clear on it, and then finding another situation where if your logic is true and this is what you actually believe, it should hold up here as well. But then it doesn't. And then he watches it just crumble right in front of them. And I'm sure he does it here too. But I'm not going to talk too much. Mehdi is going to do most of the talking today. Let's get into it.
Saw is actually pretty funny. Trigonometry hosts seem to think that if they debate Mehdi Hasan and come across as winning, they've made a name for themselves. But they are very wrong. Their minds were already dumb, but after so many appearances on the Joe Rogan Experience, they just got even dumber. They go on there and tell Zionist, delusional bullshit. And this bald is so used to hearing that stuff that whenever a right-winger says something, he reacts like, wow, we are so smart, and then that same fake laugh.
So how...
Well, Trigonometry guys badly regretted it after inviting Mehdi Hasan. And I'm pretty sure after the Mehdi Hasan debate, they will think hundreds of times before inviting a real person to their show.
Found 52% of Americans think the Epstein files was one of the reasons Trump went to war. You might think mad conspiracy theory. A majority of Americans believe that is one of the reasons he went to war. So I think it's a mix of things. Israel obviously played a big role in that. And I think now he's in it, he's doubling down, tripling down. He could just declare victory. People like Tucker Carlson have called him or called proxies of his and said, just say mission accomplished and go home. Just say I killed Khamenei, I degraded their military, blah, 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 and go home like you did last year after the 12-day war. He won't do it. He's quadrupling down as we speak.
Well, so why do you think that is?
If we're going to spend an hour doing psychoanalyzing Trump, it's going to be difficult. I think he is someone who does not want to accept defeat. The worst thing in his life is to be a loser. The guy doesn't accept he lost a 2020 election, still ranting on about that. The idea that he would lose to the Iranians, and he is losing right now, let's just be very clear. All of the available evidence suggests he is losing.
What do you mean?
The goals, what are his goals in Iran? We don't know because he's never really stated them. But if it's destroying Iran, he's failed. He posted a couple of weeks ago, I've destroyed 100% of Iran's military capability. Okay, then what are we watching every day land on Gulf countries? What are we watching happening in the Strait of Hormuz? He's alienated his allies. Iran's nuclear enrichment, whatever they have still left over, they still have. They're still hitting Gulf countries. Gulf countries are furious. So I think he's losing. And, people like, strategic experts will point out that a country like Iran wins simply by surviving, right? Because they're the weaker, smaller power. So I think he's in a bad state. I don't think he's going to give up because he can't handle the defeat. And by the way, it's a US-Israeli war, right? And a lot of people have pointed out that the US and Israeli interests are not the same. Our strategic interests are not Israel.
That's very clear that they're not. And I think that...
And one thing for me is that's really been tough to have this conversation recently. And it just shows me where people are as far as their education and their knowledge geopolitically. And I don't even mean that as necessarily a diss, because I'm realizing now the more that I talk to people, a lot of this is based on their algorithm. Like, a lot of them just aren't actually being shown the truth. Excuse me. They're not being shown the truth because everything Mehdi just listed off, there's no way you could think this is going well for us. All of that, again, Iran now has control of the Strait of Hormuz. They did not have that before. They're charging ships by the day to pass through there, so they're making money. They did not have that before. Like, they're winning in this now, and not only all of that happening, across the oceans, but here now we're experiencing the turmoil, and it's only actually going to get worse, and that's what I fear. And truly, I say I fear that, but I think that may actually be the breaking point for a lot of people. Like, we think this is bad now. If this continues, it is going to get much worse. It is going to get much worse, and I'm gonna knock on wood because I really hope it doesn't, man. It sucks, and it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt the most vulnerable people, and that's why I say that. If this was just gonna be a total system failure, it would be all right. But it's really gonna impact the most vulnerable people first, as it always does with stuff like this. And and again, like I always say, I'm not on either side. I love Mehdi to death, but guys like Mehdi, guys like whoever these other two tools are, Joe Rogan, everybody else, even me. Well, I'm more like a regular. Like, these guys are more insulated, dude. They have protection. They're gonna get on here and talk about this stuff. I'm like a normal person, bro. Like, I'm gonna be more affected about this. You're gonna be more affected by this. These guys get to talk and pontificate and go back and forth about who's right or wrong. It's pretty goddamn clear if you have the information. But again, normal, everyday people, women and children who are already struggling, are gonna be the ones who are most impacted by this. All of the fallout of whatever this BS, bro, and it just sucks. It really does. Let's see what these guys have to say.
That divergence is one of the reasons people keep saying, Israel tricked Trump into this war. But bullied. I think one of you guests on your show recently talked about how he bullied him, and that's where they lose me, because I don't understand what the supposed mechanism is by which Israel bullies America.
Well, I don't know about the word bully, but let me just say, in terms of tricked or manipulated,
Okay.
this is not a conspiracy theory. The beauty of these Republicans, and you're in DC, I know you're going to be speaking to Republicans, the only redeeming feature of the Republican Party right now, they just say the quiet part out loud. People like me don't need to speculate or come up with theory. They just say it. So Lindsey Graham told the Wall Street Journal that I went to Israel and Israel showed me intel that made me think we've got to go to war. That's bizarre. A United States senator went to a foreign government for intel. Then he says, met with...
When he says me, because the way he phrased that confused me when I first watched it. When he's speaking as if he's Lindsey Graham in that. He didn't say me as in him, Mehdi Hasan. He's just like a political commentator. That confused me a little bit when I saw it too, but he's speaking as Lindsey Graham when he says me in that case.
With Netanyahu, and I coached him, his words, not mine, on how to persuade Trump to get into this war. Again, bizarre that a United States senator and a foreign leader...
I'll run that back, I'm sorry, just so it's clear.
...for intel. Then he says, met with Netanyahu, and I coached him, his words, not mine, on how to persuade Trump to get into this war. Again, bizarre that a United States senator and a foreign leader is discussing how they're going to coach, how they're going to persuade, manipulate a sitting president into war. So they're saying this stuff out loud. I'm not absolving Trump of responsibility, but nor am I saying Israel didn't play. Would we be in this war were it not for Israel? No, I think that's very clear.
Of course.
And by the way, if we stop the war tomorrow, just one last point, if Trump would say we're done, we're over, then one of the reasons I think he's not is because he's been told the Israelis aren't stopping. And therefore, as long as the Israelis go, we go.
Well, see, all I'm doing, Mehdi, is trying to parse logically the things that people are saying, including...
Logic and Trump doesn't always go in the same sentence.
Well, sure, fine.
Grifters don't like when people provide factual context. Mehdi is actually scary in debates. His ability to instantly recall facts, names, and numbers is honestly on another level. And that's exactly why they get frustrated when debating him, because you can't just waffle your way through when he's sitting there with receipts for everything. And then you've got this whole situation where it honestly looks like Israel had Trump moving however they wanted, especially with that Iran stuff. Just walking straight into a messy, self-destructive situation. And the reason? Bro, take your pick. Money, politics, religion, conspiracy stuff. It literally doesn't even matter at this point. The outcome is what people are reacting to. These trigonometry guys are insane. They talk with smug, super condescending, and instead of just saying things straight, they do that passive-aggressive, roundabout talking that feels like low-key gaslighting. Like, bro, just say what you mean without acting like you're intellectually superior.
All I'm doing...
He hit it on the head there. Like, I just don't understand this energy where it's like, when you're talking to a person, you can tell that this is not a real conversation for them. They have their preconceived notions, their pre-written scripts in their mind that they're going to deliver to you, whatever sensationalized claims that they've been fed. And it's not a matter of sharing information and trying to come to an understanding. They, in their mind, already have an understanding, and they're trying to educate you, essentially, and that's what it turns into usually.
trying to parse logically the things that people are saying,
I mean,
including
logic and Trump doesn't always go in the same sentence.
well, sure, fine. But I guess what I'm saying is this: if President Trump didn't want to do this, he wouldn't do it.
Agreed. We are in 100%
He
agreement.
could very easily say to Iran, we have nothing to do with this. And in fact, we're not even going to shoot down your ballistic missiles if you shoot them at Israel, because we'd want no part in this. And then none of this would be going on. So that's the bit where people lose me when they talk about Israel. I mean, every country wants to manipulate the United States into doing what
And
it
they've
wants.
been doing it well under Trump.
But
He's easily manipulated.
Russia wants him to make it easier for them in Ukraine. Ukraine wants it to make it easier for them to defeat Russia. China spends huge amounts of money shaping U.S. foreign policy if it can. So does Qatar. So do lots of countries. So I guess the thing that I'm trying to get to the bottom of, because it's such a big talking point in the U.S. right now, is what is the supposed mechanism by which this tiny country of Israel has this outsized power over the president of the United States?
So a couple of things. One is, it's not mutually exclusive, is it, Constantine, to say that Donald Trump has responsibility. He's a grown man. He may not act like a grown man, but is a grown man and has to take responsibility for decisions he makes. That's not mutually exclusive with saying, but the Israelis also tricked him, manipulated him, lobbied him, bullied him, pressured him. Both of those things can be true at the same time.
All I'm asking is, what is the mechanism
so let's
by
cut that.
which
But we
that
accept
happens?
that both those things can be true.
Of course,
So now we come to what is the Israelis doing. You would accept that, you just listed a bunch of countries, and the Gulf, the Qataris have a lot of influence, the Emiratis have a lot of influence, the Russians, sadly, have a lot of influence with Trump. You would accept that none of those countries come close to Israel's influence. I don't think there's any question mark about Israel's influence on American policies. The question you're asking about is how.
What's the mechanism?
But no one would deny. I mean, you watched the Ted Cruz interview with Tucker Carlson that went viral not long ago. Cruz says, I came into politics to defend Israel. They don't say that about any other country. I've never heard an American senator say, I came into politics to defend Belgium.
But, Bullet, I think one of you guests on your show.
Experts will point out that a country like Iran wins. A United States senator went to a foreign government.
Is trying to parse logically the things that
Instead of just saying, take your pick, money,
bottom of, because it's such a big
doing. You would accept that. You just listed a bunch of about is how.
What's the
but
mechanism?
no one would deny. I mean, you watched the Ted Cruz interview with Tucker Carlson that went viral not long ago. Cruz says, I came into politics to defend Israel. They don't say that about any other country. I've never heard an American senator say, I came into politics to defend Belgium. Never heard it. Never heard anyone talk about any other country the way.
Just to interject once more thing, if I may. That's not necessarily evidence of Israel having influence. It might well be a case of there are lots of people who live in America who believe, for whatever reason, for religious reasons or for geopolitical reasons, that this is a country with which America should have a close alliance.
So 100% I agree with you. There are Christian evangelicals in this country who believe that the rapture will happen when all the Jews are gathered in this place, and they are even more hardcore pro-Israel than a lot of pro-Israeli Jews. That's 100% true. But there are also a bunch of people in American politics. I know, I've met them, I've interviewed them. They tell me this on and off the record, who are supporting Israel because they're worried about being primaried. They're worried about losing their jobs. They're worried about being called anti-Semitic. They're worried about being targeted by AIPAC. They're worried about being targeted by their political opponents, et cetera, et cetera. The idea that there isn't a very, very powerful pro-Israel lobby is absurd. Just as there is a very powerful gun lobby, just as there is a very powerful farmer lobby, right? It's funny that when we in this city, people are happy to say, you're owned by the gun lobby. But for good reasons, because of anti-Semitic tropes, people don't want to say you're owned by the Israel lobby.
There's a good reason.
There is a good reason
of
for
course.
it. But the fact is,
let me just
there is an Israel lobby that has massive oversized influence on American politics.
The distinction I'm trying to make, and I think it's an important one, and it's good that we're exploring this, which is, I think...
I want to hear what he has to say and how he responds to this, but these are key things I'm looking for. Either it's willful ignorance, and they're deliberately being, evil or disingenuous, or they're just actually ignorant and uneducated, because there's no way that in the big 2026, you are a political commentator. This is what you do, and you're going to act like and expect me to believe that you have no idea about the oversized influence that Israel has over our politics. You're going to tell me and expect me to believe that you don't know anything about AIPAC. So it's like you just lose credibility for me. Like whatever he could say next, and it might be good, but it's just that's always going to be there. Like that's just loaded in the database now. Like this guy is obviously a grifter. Either again he's willfully ignorant or just normally ignorant, because there's no way you don't know this.
The reason people worry about calling it the Israeli lobby versus the gun lobby is the Israeli lobby implies some kind of foreign influence, right? Whereas the point that I think you and I are both making, actually, in agreement on, is there are lots and lots of Americans who, for whatever reasons, their own personal reasons, view this as an important strategic alliance of the United States or a religious worldview or whatever. So, and I think that's where the distinction becomes difficult.
I think you're, in good faith, overstating the other part of the argument, maybe for argument's sake or devil's advocacy. All I'm saying is, let me give you one example. When you ask Democratic voters, do you support what Israel's doing in Gaza? 8%, according to one poll, said we support it. Right?
Mehdi Hasan should ask him when he referred to Israel as a tiny country. Let's actually be clear. This tiny country is a country that American taxpayers are forced to give their hard-earned money to every single year to support the Israeli military, its healthcare system, and even things like free community college. And meanwhile, what do we get in return for all that money? Why is it okay for some countries to have nuclear weapons but not others? Hypocrisy, bullying, and full of hatred towards others, maybe? No one should have them. These weapons have the potential to destroy humanity. Why would you spend money and resources on something of this magnitude when they should be used to aid humanity? What does matter is that too many of Americans' elected officials are putting Israel's interests before Americans' obvious national interests.
But if you look at the polling, Konstantin, you're in DC at a time when, in astonishing polls I never thought I'd see in my lifetime, that Americans have now switched. They are now supporting Palestinians more than they support Israel. First time in my lifetime. I never thought I would see those polls. Sadly, it took a genocide and tens of thousands of Palestinians to get Americans to switch their positions. But again, if that doesn't translate into Congress, into the presidency, then you have to ask why. Do we have a democratic crisis?
Well, 70% of Republicans support Israel over
Republicans, but the American public,
and the Republicans,
independents and Democrats,
but the Republicans are in power, so that would explain.
But they should also respond to public opinion. It's not like when Democrats are about they only follow the base. They spend their whole life chasing swing voters.
Mehdi Hasan completely dismantles both of them throughout the entire hour-long debate. And again, grifters don't like when people provide factual context. They've spent their whole lives in comfort, living off Republican funding and only believing what they see on the social media. They've never faced anyone who could show them the truth. That's why they panic when Mehdi hits them with real facts, and deep down, they probably regret inviting him. And can you even believe he literally went on Joe Rogan podcast and said that Muslims in Iran want nuclear weapons to end the world? And nobody even blinked. Nobody questioned him. Yeah, that's actually true. In the magical echo chamber, you can just say whatever insane thing you want, and this bald head and his audience eat it up. But put him in front of a guy who actually knows the facts, and suddenly Mr. Big Brain can't form a sentence.
Oh man, I mean, he wrapped that up perfectly. I don't know if I could actually put that any better. But this is what happens when the facts confront the feelings. And, there's no editing. The other person is very equipped. It's very interesting, but please, as usual, let me know what you think about this, and I will see you next time.